Hey y'all, how's it going? It's Charlie with Savage Gulf Constrictors. Wanted to come to you today and talk a little bit about breeding boas, what we did this year, the things that went right. Just give a little insight as to where we're headed as spring is turning into summer, and we are literally weeks away from babies on the ground here at Savage Gulf. So this particular season, we're a small operation. We only had two pairs that we were working on. The first one was an Aztec Anery male that we had paired with a Motley Anery female. And unfortunately, it just didn't take. I don't know, still trying to figure out whether it was the male that wasn't too interested or whether it was the female that just wasn't having it this year. Fortunately, our other pairing did take. That was with a male albino call, and he was paired up with a female hypo jungle het call. So, and also het anery as well. That's right. So we did have what seemed to be the textbook couple there from the very beginning. He was introduced. We try to introduce up here around mid-November. We're up in the mountains, so I like to wait for that first cold front to come through. That brings the good frost close to freezing temperatures. It just seems to do something. Of course, the room where we have our snakes has some windows in it, so they're getting that natural light cycle. What's telling them that, hey, the days are getting shorter. It's getting a little cooler around us. I don't really mess with the temperatures much in the enclosures themselves. I just kind of let nature take its course, and it has worked. So with these two guys, he was introduced, and within about 4 or 5 days, she immediately went into a shed, and he was courting. And that's something that you see a lot is the female pretty much, it's almost like a recharge. She'll go into shed. Once that shed is over, it's a new phase. It's a new part of her life where she's ready to accept him courting her, and she's going to start building those follicles. And when the time is right, of course, she allows conception, and then there you go. So that's kind of what happened with these guys. And I took some pictures along the way just to show kind of what she looked like, especially from the start of breeding to when you could tell she's slowly starting to build some follicles, all the way up to boom, we have a pre-ovulation swell. That's classic sign up to kind of where she is now. So without further ado, I'll throw some pictures up here and I'll kind of talk as we go along. So pick number one here. Of course, like I said earlier, we put these guys together in mid-November. I think it was November 16th to be exact. And here we have them in early December. She has shed. We have the typical courtship behavior, nothing major going on, but you can notice that muscle line that along her dorsal, her backside, that dorsal line is clearly visible throughout pretty much all of her body. And of course, this continued for quite a while. We separate for the first couple months, we keep them in together, no food. And then after that, we separate every 3 to 4 weeks to feed both male and female, give them a little time to digest, and then reintroduce the male. And that goes on pretty much once a month until we have something happen, a swell, or we see that she goes into, well, even after, excuse me, that's not correct. After, even if she has the post ovulation swell, we keep her in, or excuse me, we keep him in until we see her go into a shed, and what's known as her post ovulation shed. So, anyways, yeah, early December, typical of what we would see. Then we move on to pick two. And in this situation, what we see here is, I believe, early January, so about a month later. And this is a classic example of a male courting a female, what you want to see. The lower half of his body is kind of draped over her 3 times over again. You see from the top, one, two, three. And then, of course, the end of their tails are just kind of hanging out together. Now, this isn't a lock by any means, but he's just hanging out. And he's just saying, hey, I'm ready when you are. Tail's right here with you. You just let me know. Of course, she's busy doing her thing. Well, you can kind of see towards the lower part of her body, the dorsal line is already starting to diminish towards her. Again, looking at her lower body there, you'll see where that line kind of goes away and she's kind of thickening just a little bit. So again, for early January, we're like, okay, all right, well, this is still looking pretty good. And so now we're going to fast forward to about mid-January or so, so not that much further down the line, and you can see how much, you can clearly see her thickening. That dorsal line, that muscle there is kind of giving way to just the swelling and what that is. Now, this isn't a pre-ovulation swell yet. This is still her building those follicles. She's probably, and we noticed, if you're doing it, notice your female drinking big old gulps of water. She's making sure she's staying hydrated for the follicle builds. And that's what we have here. So we know that we're probably getting pretty close. Of course, he's still doing his job. He would take 2 or 3 days off at a time, but for the most part, he stayed right there with her, displaying perfect courtship behavior. And now we're going to fast forward to pick number 4 here, and this is the pre-ovulation swell. So you can see there towards the lower half, it looks like she's swallowed a huge meal, and we don't feed them big meals. So this was well after a couple weeks after she last ate, so this would not have been food. The obvious sign is the pre-ovulation swell, and this happened on February 2nd. And of course, clearly shows the dorsal line muscle there just gone. And about 2 weeks after that or so, that's when she had her post ovulation shed. And we could tell because she, of course, they all start to get kind of dark and dull, but this was even a darker version of her, and this was her first time breeding. So that was the darkest we had ever seen her. And that was kind of the telltale sign, like, oh man, here we go. This is awesome, And of course, even after the swell, I think, yeah, we fed her again, uh, offered it anyways. Excuse me, that's what it was. We offered it. She wasn't interested, and I'm like, yeah, that's telltale sign. She's going into shed, So we're gonna have to save this meal until after she's done with her shed. And I think about 3 days after that or so, 2 or 3 days, she went into her opaque colored eyes, and of course the post ovulation shed is a little bit longer than what their normal ones are. It wasn't quite 2 weeks or so for her. I know some people say it can be, upwards of over 14 days. That wasn't the case. The last for her was about, I don't know, maybe about 10 or so days, 10 or 11 days, which is still longer. The process usually takes about a week. So anyway, she gets done with her shed, and then what I have here is, this was taken just the other day. This is pick 5 a few days ago, and she is massive. So at this point, we are about, I would say, 3 or 4 weeks until she gives birth, if everything still goes to plan, knock on wood. So where we are now, of course, it's 105 days gestation time after they've completed their post ovulation shed. So what that means from February 2nd, that gives her to June 15th. Now, of course, that's give or take 5 days. She could be about 4 or 5 days late. She could be about 4 or 5 days early, typically. So if that's the case, and we are, I think we're the 12th today. So we are well within her last month of gestation, if that's the case. So less than a month to go if she decides to drop those babies around the 10th of June. So anyway, but that's where we is. She continues to grow. She looks good. She's eating just fine. She's taking a meal every time we've offered it, except for when she was going into shed, which is normal behavior. So if everything goes right, she'll continue to grow a little bit more. Of course, during midway through her gestation period is kind of when she gets huge again. So that ovulation swell will happen, then she'll go back down to normal size. But then as the weeks turn into months turn, yeah, then she's growing and growing to where she's back up to even larger than that ovulation swell. I mean, about that size, but it just encompasses pretty much almost half of her lower body. You know, definitely a good definitely a good 2/3 or a third of it, I guess you'd say. But she's doing really well anyway, so we're really excited. We should have some sun glows out of this. We should have some junglos if everything goes right. We should have some albinos and some normal visuals that are going to be het for some albino and I'll say normals. We might get a few jungles and hypos in there too, hopefully. So anyway, that's where we are. It should be a beautiful litter. She's massive. I'm got my fingers crossed for at least 15 to 20 babies. We may get more. Who knows? It's hard to tell with them. But anyhow, it gives you a little idea where we are, what we're excited about here, and then before we know it, the summer will be over. These babies will be available to go to their new homes, and guess what? We'll be starting all over again in the fall, prepping our males and females for the same thing over again. So uh, anyhow, hope you enjoyed the little insight, the look into Petunia is her name, and yeah, hopefully it won't be too much longer and we'll be making a babies on the ground video for you guys. So appreciate you tuning in. As always, if you enjoyed this, please give us a like and please subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. Also, check us out on Instagram at Savage Gulf Constrictors. We'd love to see you there. And we hope to talk to you real soon. All right, y'all take care.